Alright, hello YouTube viewers. You are in for a treat today because you are going to learn how to create flyers in Photoshop. A quick story as to how I got here. What I'm doing is I'm creating a website, and in my website I'm going to allow viewers, or actually users, to put their flyers or their business cards on my website so they can promote themselves. But then I figured out that maybe some of these users don't know how to actually create a flyer. So that led me to actually learn how to create flyers in Photoshop. Now another part of what my website is going to do is going to show the users how to actually use my website through tutorials. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm actually learning how to create a tutorial by teaching you how to create flyers in Photoshop. So we both win in that case. So let's get on to it. Okay, welcome to the tutorial on creating a flyer in Photoshop. I'm going to try to take this step by step, trying to explain everything that I'm actually doing, and kind of give you some graphics on every click that I make. I know there are some Photoshop videos out there that kind of go along with creating photos or flyers and things like that, but don't exactly explain everything that they're doing. So since I'm new to Photoshop, and since a lot of you may be new to Photoshop, I'm going to try to make it as basic as possible. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually open Photoshop. Hopefully everyone knows at least how to open Photoshop. And then the next thing I'm going to do is create a new document. You can create a new document by going up to your file, and you can select new here. Or what I usually do is I press Control N to create a new document. Now if you're going to create a flyer to actually be printed out, what you want to do is you want to have your color mode here into CMYK when it's time for you to actually save that flyer. Industry standard actually wants you to use CMYK, and they want your resolution to be 300. I actually saw another tutorial that said they wanted you to put your resolution to 600, so when it actually goes off to being printed, it kind of compresses it a little bit and it brings that resolution back down to around 300. So they say 300 is good, but actually I like to use 600 for my resolution. For now, we're going to change our color mode back to RGB, because RGB is basically the colors that you can actually see on your screen, whereas CMYK is more of the colors that the actual printer or the printing company actually uses. So we're going to go to RGB color. We're going to put our resolution at 600. The width of a flyer can kind of change, but we're going to go with a 7-inch width and a 5-inch height. So once we got all that in, we're going to go ahead and press OK. So now that our new document is open, we're going to go to where our photos are that we're going to actually make a flyer with. To do that, you can go up to the top where it says BR. BR stands for bridge. We're going to launch the bridge. Now in Bridge, I have several flyers that I've already created, and some of the pictures that I actually used to create the flyer. The flyer we're going to create is this one right here. Alright, so if you want to open up a photo or whatever you have, all you have to do is go over to that particular photo, double click it, and it'll go straight into Photoshop. Okay, now this is the flyer that I created. But one secret to this is I didn't actually create this flyer just from scratch. I actually got some inspiration from some flyers that I saw on the internet, and I encourage you to do the same. There's no reason to actually try to reinvent the wheel when there's a lot of graphic designers out there that have flyers already on the internet. So what I did was I downloaded this flyer right here to use as basic inspiration to create my own flyer. So I did a lot of things that were kind of similar, but I kind of added my own feel as well. So this is the flyer that I downloaded, and this is the flyer that I created. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how I got there. The first thing I'm going to do is isolate the first layer that I created and show you how I made that layer. How I isolate just one single layer, because you can see the eye is basically selecting all the layers that I used so far. All I want to do is select this last layer down here to isolate that one. So we're going to go to the eye icon, right click it, come up to show hide, and select that. And what that does is this disables all the other layers and only shows the layer that we have here. So let's show you how I create that layer. The first thing we're going to do is come down here to where it says create a new layer. We're going to create a new layer by clicking that. Now we're going to add this kind of gradient pattern that we have here. As you can see in my original flyer up here, you can kind of see where it's kind of black right here and it goes to gray about right there, and that's basically what I'm creating, a background that has a little bit of black on it and then goes to gray. So let's show you how I did that. Now on the new layer that we created, what I want to do is disable the layer below it by selecting that eye. That will disable that layer, and then we're going to go over to the gradient palette or the gradient tool. It's right here. So from the gradient tool, the gradient editor will show up right here. Go ahead and double click that, actually single click that, and I am going to select the colors that I wanted from black to gray here. So let's go over the gradient editor. On the gradient editor you have several stops that kind of give you a guide in between where your colors are going to be located. You can have one stop, or you can actually have as many stops as you want. Stops are these bars here. If I double click this bar here, it'll open up my gradient picker, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down and select that black that we wanted. So we're going to go black and select OK. Now you can also see in the original you had a little bit of gray in here, so we're going to go up to the middle stop and double click that stop, and now we're going to come down and try to find some gray right about there. Our third stop kind of has a little bit of white going into it, so we're going to leave the white there, but what I do want to do is to try to get a little bit of that white out of it. So I'm going to grab this stop, click and hold, and drag over. Now you notice these little diamond shaped points here are in between these two stops. So say I drug this over to kind of get rid of that white a little bit, I can do almost the same thing with this little picker here, and that'll actually give me kind of a balance in between that too. Now if you want to add a stop, all you have to do is go up to your gradient picker and select the point where you want to add a stop and click it. Once you click it, you can open it up and select any color that you want, and that will be in your gradient bar. If you want to remove that stop, all you have to do is grab it, click and hold, and drag right down. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I'm going to do over here, because I don't really see much white in our original background. So we're going to grab that white, click and hold, drag down, so all we really have is black to gray. We're going to slide this over to blend it in a little bit more, and select OK. Now the next thing you're going to do when your gradient tool is selected is you're going to click and hold, and you're going to drag right across and release the mouse, and then that's going to give you that background that we got before. This is the original background, and this is what we have now. It is not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete the layer below it, since we have our new one. How you delete a layer below it is you highlight it and just press delete. Now what I'm going to do is undo that by pressing Ctrl Z and show you another way to delete a layer. All you have to do is click and hold it, grab it, and then drag it to the garbage can right here. Boom. And that's how you create the background. Now we're going to go on to the next step.